Time for corporate America. And the wealthiest one.
Debunked. The rich don't pay their fair share. Dude, I love when Republicans do stuff like this, by the way.
Begin to pay their fair share.
Pay a fair share.
You're going to start paying your fair share.
I love when Republicans do this shit, by the way, when they like go out to bat for rich people. It's fucking awesome because like, I think people are angry. And what Donald Trump at least does very well, even though it's like super threatening, is make it seem like he's on the side of the working poor.
But this requires us to answer a few questions. First, what does the rich even mean?
So when he does like the...
When we ask what it means to be rich, it's easy to roll your eyes. You know, it's the dude with the mansion, the guy with the yacht. The truth is that the word rich is somewhat vague. A man who owned 1 million shares of Pets.com in February 2000 was rich. At that time, Pets.com stock was worth over $10 a share.
This is the happiest day of my life!
By January 2001, he would have been broke. There's a difference between realized wealth and unrealized wealth.
Oh my God, dude. I'm debunking. People with assets that's not directly liquid cash are technically not rich. Yeah, like for example, this logic extended to its like final conclusion would make it so that Jeff Bezos is not even rich, okay? Elon Musk is not rich. Like, I guess they're not rich then. Thanks, man. Yeah, because like if Jeff Bezos technically only makes $60,000 a year. He does. Jeff Bezos gets paid $80,000 a year when he was the CEO of Amazon. Technically, he's not rich. Okay, got it, dude. Thanks.
Perhaps we mean the man who owns huge chunks of land.
Most of America's richest people made their fortune in real estate. Isn't it about time for you to learn how?
But here we run into the same problem. The value of land rises and falls. By the same token, a poor landowner in Texas before the discovery of oil on his property was poor. Next thing you know, Jed Clampett is living in Beverly Hills.
Wait, a poor landowner in Texas? Dog, you're still a landowner. Like, what the f—
Wall Street, corporations.
Is it the value of land rises and falls? Yeah, dude. I love when the value of land falls because there's evidently more land. You know, when we expanded the land. Remember when the value of land fell when we found more land? I guess value of land does actually decrease when land becomes water. That would technically make the remaining land be more expensive because now there's less land.
And the super rich.
A billionaire class.
You know, folks with helipads.
This country has...
That's true. Okay, owned. Netherlands, technically land expansion. Russian land expansion, okay, that's different. That is just on pre-existing land. They didn't make up new land. We're talking about making new land. Technically, your landlord isn't rich until he sells the building, Ben explains to the residents of a 4-bed, 1-bathroom apartment. Yeah.
Worked for the rich for a long time and left everyone else in the dirt. It's
worth noting when we talk about the rich that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden talk about this as though it was a Marxist class, as though it's just a group of people and they were always the same. The truth—
Yeah, Joe Biden constantly talking about dialectical materialism, Jack. There was a time in human history when we had primitive accumulation, primitive communism, as I like to call it. And then the Mac attack happened in the form of enclosures, which is another kind of structural violence. Why? Many people said they were shot dead. We must return to a time where commodity production is based on need, not greed. Dark Brandon.
And throughout people's lives, they move in and out of income quintiles.
A quintile is a 1/5 or 20% portion of the whole. Quintiles divide the population, ordered by income from lowest to highest, into 5 groups, each with an equal number of households.
The vast majority of Americans will spend their days in many different income quintiles over the course of their life. People tend to increase their income quintiles over the course of time.
That's fundamentally a flawed assessment. But of course, I am not surprised that Ben would go along with the anti-Marxist approach to this. But also, even then, capitalism has gotten to such an unmanageable level of wealth accumulation that certainly has not trickled down to the other quintiles that, no, it's not even true anymore. What he's talking about is like the old attitude, like the endless expansion and like, you know, American prosperity, American dream mentality, which doesn't even work anymore. So thank you, Ben, for just lying on behalf of our capitalist overlords.
So put aside race or sex or any of the other complicating factors people like to talk about with regard to income. If you take age, age is probably the #1 confound in terms of income quintile. Younger people earn less. As you move into middle age, you earn more.
In no quintile of the income.
Why doesn't anyone think that this is like an idiotic argument to make, dude? I just like how? Yes, babies. Babies are making $0. They are in the worst quintile. Babies are not earners and therefore should be kicked out of the home so they can learn valuable skills. Whereas the older you get, the more you move up in the ranks of productive workers. For example, when you have a lemonade stand as a baby, as an industrious baby, you're not making a lot of money, maybe $10 max. However, when you take over your father's jet ski dealership, all of a sudden you've become a much better earner, moving up in quintiles.
Distribution. Do the people tend to stay there? People are constantly moving among these brackets.
So what does the rich mean? Typically, we actually mean people who earn a lot of income.
Most of what I've heard you talking about has been about the distribution of income rather than about the distribution of wealth.
The Elizabeth Warrens of the world want to tax wealth.
Yes.
You built a factory and it turned into something terrific or a great idea. God bless. Keep a big hunk of it. You take a hunk of that and pay forward for the next kid who comes along.
But as we've seen,
what a monster. What an absolute monster. What a horrible idea that is, okay? What a horrible, horrible, terrible idea. Like, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Elizabeth Warren, but like, she's right. You know what I mean? That's a totally reasonable and normal thing to demand.
Wealth on paper is not always wealth in reality. What's more, taxing wealth ends with destroying wealth because people have to then liquidate their unrealized gains in order to pay taxes. The left says that they're focusing on income tax.
Yeah, except if only there was a way to, like, I don't know, implement some kind of progressive taxing system into that process. I don't know, like, especially considering that the top 10% of wealth own 90% of the fucking market, so that, like, for 90% of the American population, they wouldn't actually be harmed by this policy in any meaningful capacity, and therefore those who would simply have to liquidate their wealth, like literally every other fucking human being who is incapable of paying their fucking taxes, would do so. But Ben is making it seem like it's not actually the top 10% of wealth. It's actually everyone that would be harmed by a policy such as this. But it's bullshit. It's that simple, by the way. If I, as a self-employed person, okay, don't have enough money to pay big government man at the end of the year, I'm gonna have to sell some shit to be able to do so. That's a normal thing, okay? That's why everybody has accountants after a certain level of income, so that they make sure that they have enough money fucking cast aside to pay the government. That's how it works. For the average worker, as I was also until, 2020, the lion's share of the taxes were already being taken out of my W-2, out of my wages, regardless, before it even reached my fucking pockets. Why is it that we just act like it is so unfathomable to pay taxes if you're rich? And not only that, but if you are also one of the few incredibly fortunate people who was lucky enough to be in the working class and yet still was able to fucking purchase a house, you're already paying property taxes, which is, of course, another fucking wealth tax. And guess what? It might be shocking to you, but there is an assessment made on the value of that thing that you're talking about, and that value can diminish or that value can increase, and you can fucking tax, and you can get taxed accordingly. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Fun to think about.
Tax, they don't even focus on that, really. They just sort of say that a person is rich, therefore they don't pay their fair share. The idea is that if they weren't stealing tax money, they wouldn't be rich.
Do you think the people at the top are paying?
They quite literally are doing that because they've designed a system to be able to do so. We talk about buy, borrow, die often on this broadcast, which is a way that wealthy people are able to basically never really pay any fucking taxes because they don't have to they don't have to cash out any of their fucking assets. This is, of course, before we talk about regular tax evasion, offshoring shit, or not even offshoring shit. You can just, use American tax loopholes that already exist. What the wealthy do in buy, borrow, die is they have a fuckload, an nearly infinite amount of assets, right? They have an infinite amount of leverage. What that means is they can always go to a bank and say, hey, I'm worth, billions of dollars, please give me a fucking loan with an incredibly low interest rate. And banks are like, oh my God, you're working with us. That's wonderful. I will give you literally the lowest interest rate, so low that it'll blow your fucking mind. And it's a very fortuitous system for both the bank and the rich person. The rich person gets to use as much money as he wanted to, okay, while simultaneously not selling any of his fucking assets. Then none of that is taxable, obviously. And you don't have to now give the government money, okay? You're just giving the bank a way, way lower percentage. It's like paying a tax to the fucking bank for money that you're getting from the bank. But that tax is not, 37%. That tax is 1% on whatever money you're taking out. That's how it works. And this is why the effective tax rate for so many of the wealthy people is around like 1% or even less than 1%. Whereas the average American is paying, in recent years, the median American household earned about $70,000 annually and paid 14% in federal taxes. The highest income tax rate, 37%, kicked in this year for couples on earnings above $628,000. Okay. Whereas the true tax rate for Warren Buffett is 0.10%. The true tax rate for Jeff Bezos is 0.98%. True tax rate for Michael Bloomberg is 1.30%, and Elon Musk is 3.27%. Do you understand? So whenever people like Ben Shabibo and all these other people like, freak out about this and say the rich are paying their fair share, the rich are paying their fair share, like they're fucking lying. They're lying. The rich people that actually do pay their fair share are not the asset owners, but rather doctors, lawyers, like high paid professionals, okay? Doctors, lawyers, athletes, Hollywood celebrities, shit like that, musicians. And also don't forget how rich people play with asset evaluations to literally get millions in tax returns as well. There's also that part as well. Aside from how much of your like yearly earnings are immediately going back into taxes, what you also obviously have to factor in is the cost of living, which is incredibly expensive if you are, it is very expensive to be poor here.
No, I do not. It's the working man that's paying taxes. Poor man. That's right, poor man.
I mean, they've got marvelous accountants that know how to fix everything up.
The company like the Ford Motor Company didn't pay a cent in income tax last year, yet your paycheck is abused.
That's not true in any way. Let's say that you're a business owner. You are paying taxes 1,000 different ways. You're paying for the Social Security of your employees. You're paying for their unemployment insurance. You're paying capital gains taxes if you ever realize any of the gains in your company in terms of selling your stock. And then once it comes to you in terms of income, you're paying income tax. When you pass it on to your kids when you die, you then have to pay an estate tax unless you come up with some legal workaround. We should not be taxing every dollar a dozen different times.
There's like 15,000 people in the country that are paying that, dude. What the fuck? The estate tax starts at like what, 15 million? What the fuck are you talking about? 15 million, dog. What do you mean? What do you mean? You're paying an estate tax. It's like, dude, 15 million? Who? I'm not paying estate tax. If I die tomorrow, I'm not paying estate tax. The you is maybe Ben Shapiro. Maybe. Okay, maybe.
When your company takes in $1, when you pay an employee, when you earn it as income, when you buy stock and the price goes up, when you sell that stock, when you pass it on to your kids, we should be taxing every dollar once and once only. Which means that if you paid taxes on a $5 million income one year, you shouldn't have to keep paying taxes on those same dollars afterward.
Uh-oh, capital gains tax.
Which brings us to the second question. What does your fair share mean? First, we have to define what it means to pay your fair share. Now, you might think this means we all pay the same percentage of our income to the federal government, a flat tax, or a single rate. Let's say the flat tax is 20%. If I make $2 million, I'd pay $400,000 to the federal government. Or we might say that
there should be a flat percentage tax. That would yield higher fucking revenue, I think. Actually, that's probably not true because we do rely on, there are so many more middle-class people out there than there are wealthy. So I don't know if a flat percentage tax would actually yield better results.
Every quintile is responsible for their piece of the pie, so to speak. So if the top 20% earned, say, 50% of all income in the United States, they would pay 50% of all income tax. Neither of these things is true in the United States. According to Statista's research department, the top quintile of income earners in the United States earned approximately 52.2% of all income in the United States. The top 1% pay approximately 40% of all federal income tax. The top 50% of taxpayers pay essentially.
That's really interesting that Ben's saying that, right? The top 1% is paying 40% of all federal income tax, right? Okay, but we're not even talking about those motherfuckers. I'm one of those motherfuckers, okay? We're talking about the motherfuckers who are in the top 1% that are paying that federal income tax and yet still have infinitely more that are hidden in the form of assets in the fucking stock market that are unrealized gains, which you are trying to defend currently. Okay? That's the problem.
The top 50%.
He literally immediately starts talking about like income. Yeah, that's crazy. Can you imagine the possibilities if the top 1% of income, if the top 1% of income taxes or taxpayers are paying 40% of the federal income tax? Now imagine the possibilities if there was a fucking wealth tax, dude. That's crazy. Forcing people to liquidate to pay taxes is the worst idea I've ever heard. Yeah, man, you're so right. It's such a bad idea. You would never do that for anything else. Totally. Except you would do that, like you as an average person. If you're in my Twitch chat, you probably don't own a load of assets. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna keep it real with you. You probably would have to do that. You're not a fucking billionaire. Okay, you're just not. And the reality is, you will probably, in any kind of like progressive taxation system that implements some kind of wealth tax or some kind of increase in like capital gains taxes for above a certain level, okay? You're not going to be hit by that. Don't worry, brother. Of course, all those billionaires that would actually be hit by that are getting think tanks the right think pieces to make you think, you fucking dumbass with your stupid fucking Honda Civic from 1997, okay? Are going to get taxed in the same way the fucking billionaires are being taxed. Could cause a market to crash. I own a house and my 401k is fine. Your 401k is fine right now? Interesting.
Percent of taxpayers pay essentially...
401k, more like 21k now. Motherfucker said that, oh, the stock market could crash, dude. Think about the economy.
All income taxes. In actuality, the United States has the world's most progressive income tax system, at least according to the Organization for Economic...
Also, it's so funny to be like, I own a house. And then also simultaneously be like, forcing to liquidate someone's assets is ridiculous. Like, bro, you already pay property taxes, okay? You literally pay property taxes. So you already recognize that like some kind of wealth, some kind of math factors into that, right? The value of your home is how you pay property taxes. That same kind of math could be applied to your fucking unrealized assets.
Cooperation and development.
So after you make $10 million in 1 year, your dollars after that start to get progressively taxed at a much higher rate. At what level are we really just living in excess? And what kind of society do we want to live in?
Underlying all of the leftist complaints about the rich not paying their fair share is a lie. The lie that the rich make all the money in America.
The country is awash in wealth and cash. It's just that it's not.
The top 1% of income in America is $600K a year, pretty far from $1 billion. I know that 1% is gigantic. Okay, it goes from 600,000 to like a couple million to 10 million to 100 million to fucking holy what the fuck just happened?
Not in your hands.
And yes, if you are in the Twitch chat currently, you say $600,000 a year is insane. Anyone who's making $600,000 a year is already paying a pretty fucking whopping sizable percentage of that back to the fucking federal government, and depending on what states they're living in, back to their fucking states. No one is fucking making $1 billion a year, however, in income, okay? Do you understand? That's the difference, chatters. No motherfucker is making $50 million a year in income, unless they're like LeBron fucking James, dude. Hello? It's how your net worth increases.
To reach that conclusion, the Census Bureau, for example, ignores money transfers. When we talk about money transfers, we mean anytime you get a check from the government or a rebate from the government. So if you're talking about the Earned Income Tax Credit, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program,
God.
Food stamps.
No.
Subsidized medical care like Medicaid and CHIP. Subsidized housing, heating subsidies, and other social services. Now, when we look at the 2013 income distributions, for example, we see that after transfers, the bottom 20% of income earners saw their average income share rise by nearly 500%. The second lowest, nearly 100%.
Bro, you can't fucking show that number. Wait, it literally, what? I don't believe that. Where the fuck is this info coming from? First of all, 2013 income distributions? 2013?
That after transfers.
2013 income distributions? Also, why is the income distribution stopping at $250,000? I'm so confused.
Bottom 20% of income earners.
500% of zero is still zero? Why? Why is it that the Congressional Budget Office's numbers fucking stop here in this graph? 150K is the mean of the top quintile? Maybe it's the lowest number of quintile. Oh, because it's 2013. No, that can't be true. Oh, we're also looking at fucking income. Jesus Christ. Even then it doesn't. There's no way. Ben is playing fast and loose with definitions here where he's like talking about wealth taxes and how it can't work and then simply showing you income. If you're only looking at income, but even then it doesn't make sense. There has to be more numbers here. What the fuck? Why would it stop at 250K?
Saw their average income share rise by nearly 500%. The second lowest, nearly 100%. The top income group lost 31.9% of their earnings through taxation. Bottom line, according to the American Enterprise Institute, quote,
no, I don't think this graph is made up. I think this is the Congressional Budget Office's graph. So I don't think it's actually made up. This is to justify, but we're talking about income distributions, right? So here's how it's here's how this data is bullshit across the board. Like the data itself is real. The thing that I consider to be confusing is that well, let me just start off with this. The data that he is trying to make an argument for does not exist on this graph because we are just simply looking at income. Not only are we looking at 2013 income, which is like a drastically different lifetime, okay? But we're also looking at 2013 income distributions rather than wealth across the board. People that actually make an argument on where we can actually make more money, okay, for the government's coffers, don't say that we have to tax, like when they say we have to tax the 1% more, they're not saying we got to fucking tax people that are like doctors and lawyers and shit more. They're talking about people that have assets, okay? After you reach a certain point of wealth, after you reach a certain point of income, you're talking about taxing like 10 people, okay? Wealth is not the same as income. If you're going to talk about wealth taxes and then you point back to income, you're doing a Mott and Bailey argument. Where people are actually currently fucking advocating for taxing wealth, unrealized assets, unrealized gains, distribution of household income and federal taxes. Yeah, this is just talking about federal taxes and household income. It's not net worth, it's not wealth. And the missing quintile goes from 250K to 1.6 million, page 33. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Dude. Why did Ben not put that in the graph, dude? The x-axis on Ben's graph is also not displaying percentiles. Well, yeah, of course it's not displaying percentiles because, like, if he did, and it's not laziness, it's nefarious, if he did show that, then you would very easily recognize, like, wait a minute, this is missing some fucking percentiles on here. The graph is dog shit, but the data is hard to fuck up. Exactly. I mean, this is nefarious. Ben only used the first 4 blocks and left out the richest people, which are the fucking 1%! Which is a video about how the 1% are already paying their fair share in taxes. There are a couple different things that Ben Shapiro is doing in this video. I feel like I need to watch this one more time and then give it a better assessment. For example, one of the things that he's doing so regularly is playing fast and loose with the definition of what it means to be rich, which is ironic because he says he's talking about how vague of a concept this is, but then he's like deliberately going between income taxes, which is a thing that we do actually tax, versus capital gains, a thing that is like easier to avoid taxes on.
Income distributions, for example.
Anyway, also, this is before we even have a conversation about like whether this is a bad thing or not. This is a good thing. This is what social safety nets are supposed to do. Social safety nets are supposed to take from the people that have a lot of money that pay for those social safety nets and make it so that people have no money have at least like a lifestyle that is similar to someone with at least a little bit of money, okay? Like Medicaid, for example. It's a good example. It's not a waste. It's a necessity for survival.
After transfers, the bottom 20% of income earners saw their average income share rise by nearly 500%. The second lowest, nearly 100%. The top income group lost 31.9% of their earnings through taxation. Bottom line, according to the American Enterprise Institute, highest income quintile is financing 96% of the entire system of transfer payments to the bottom 60% and funding the operation of the federal government. And the United States spends a boatload more than all other countries on social spending. We are just bad at it. The reason people like me moved from California is not just because I don't like paying high taxes, but also because they were just taking that money through sheer brute force and spending it on inordinate amounts of garbage. According to the nonpartisan Peterson Institute for Economics, the United States spends 20.8% of its GDP on social services, just 3.2 percentage points below the EU average and higher than Canada and Norway. Where other countries count healthcare spending as a government expenditure, the United States gives people tax breaks on healthcare spending. If you add those tax breaks into the calculation, The United States spends more than any country other than France on social services.
How are you going to fucking point to this and then not understand that, like, socialized healthcare is the fucking only solution to this problem? Like, motherfucker, you look at this and you go, first of all, I don't even believe this, but like what is the take here? Like,
where other countries count healthcare spending as a government expenditure, the United States gives people tax breaks on healthcare spending. If you add those tax breaks into the calculation, the United States spends more than any country other than France on social services. So when you hear people on the left say that the rich don't pay their fair share, understand they are lying to you. The rich don't just pay their fair share, they pay everybody else's fair share too.
Bro, what the fuck? This is the worst video I've ever watched on this, dude. You're saying tax breaks are government spending? I mean, this is literally the fucking, I'm willing to bet that's not a per capita number. There's no way. What makes no sense is, like, this is an argument verbatim that the left uses, right? We as Americans spend more on healthcare than any other fucking country, okay? Even when it is adjusted to, like, the individual American, okay? We spend more per capita on healthcare, and we have worse healthcare outcomes because healthcare is rationed on the basis of who can pay for it rather than need, like other countries with socialized systems have. Using this as a separate example while talking about, like, how the poor are paying already too much in fucking taxes, just fundamentally psychotic. Did I miss something, or did he exclusively talk about personal income tax for the whole video? Yes. He briefly mentioned that, you know, a lot of idiots on the left want to do wealth taxes, but they're idiots, and then moved on from the wealth tax and went exclusively back to income. Exclusively about how income taxes are ridiculous, and like all the people that are paying the highest in the highest tax bracket for income taxes are paying for all the fucking services for the dirty, disgusting, filthy poors. That's basically the argument that he's making. Even though the services, as Ben also openly admits, kind of are costly, it's still not good. Which is also, but that's it. Wait, he finished it?
Ton of.
This was the fucking, this is an insane video. This might be the worst video I've ever seen from Ben Shapiro. What did he didn't debunk anything. Ben Shapiro said absolutely zero about how the wealthy could be taxed more. This is very weird. This is a very, very strange video. I would have expected him to have, like, better talking points than this, honestly. Bro, just by, like, how the rich people operate, let me just tell you something, okay? If you're poor right now, and you think one day you're going to be rich, and therefore you're trying to advocate for, like, you know, better conditions for the wealthy, you're a fucking idiot. Like, at least if you were smart enough that you were going to be, like, rich, if you believe in a fucking meritocratic process, you would be currently advocating for smart things for your current status, like more government spending on you and not the fucking wealthy, because the wealthy never fucking stop demanding more money from the government. They get all the money from the government. They get all of it invested into their fucking businesses in the form of subsidies. They get all the fucking tax breaks. You get none of it. So even if you were currently poor, you should never advocate for the wealthy to get a fairer shake in our economy, okay? Because they certainly are